Honglu has certainly received a warm welcome, hasn't he? Yes, I know, that was a terrible lie. Let's see what else the Damned Dozen have in store for them in District 8. After Virgilius, Charon, Sard and Pilus left on Mephistopheles, they heard a singing voice, which sang, "For when the far one comes, betwixt the burned doors shall a star fall astray." Sinclair then asked Queen Tao if that was the right way. He didn't like the sound of those weird songs. Queen Tao tried to reassure him that the main streets were most likely teeming with those seeking to bring harm to Honglu. It's why they're taking that route. Dante could see the point. They were able to avoid fights going down the dark alleyways. No foot traffic can be seen as unsettling. Which was what they needed. Queen Tao even elaborated on the song. It had become popular in the backstreets in recent months. Gregor saw it as ominous for a popular song. Queen Tao mentioned that it was spread through word of mouth about the decimated Kong family. He quickly changed the subject, telling them that it wasn't the place to discuss such matters. He'll share that tale in a more appropriate setting later, should they come across it. Honglu didn't know that there was a song like that, which surprised Sinclair. This is likely something that was spread sometime after he was recruited by Limbus Company as part of the Damned Squad. Over a year ago. Well, couldn't call them the Suicide Squad, that's taken. As well. Heathcliff saw him as a posh git from a posh family, doubting that he's ever set his precious feet in the back street, so no wonder he's never heard of it. Heathcliff, you've met a similar family with a similar means, so you would know. Although they weren't as separate as his was. Honglu told him that he's been to the backstreets before, but he's not wrong. He spent most of his time in his room. Apparently, this was precisely because he was the most treasured of them all, much like how the jade of the greatest worth is to be cherished, prized, and hidden in the deepest depths of one's coffers where none can reach. Okay, I'll save the source material comparison for the Chapter 8 lore, as it's most relevant there. This made Utis realize that she's like him. Yi-san confirmed this, but it was to a lesser degree. Certainly recently. Dante was considering that Queen Tao used to work for the Jia family. They asked Honglu if he knew him. Honglu hesitated to answer. Queen Tao could see this and the fact that he was looking at him. Honglu didn't feel comfortable addressing this. A thought flashed in his head and then he glanced quietly in Dante's direction. Then he dismissed this, suggesting that they continue walking down the road. Queen Tao claimed to be familiar with the roads of that area. Honglu shook his head at this, as if he was trying to hide something that they knew from Queen Tao. Dante asked if they should be suspicious of something. Honglu was silent at this. Faust then made it clear that he's a temporary ally. Caution was recommended. Utis agreed, as Pilus was inexperienced and naive. They needed to be suspicious of Queen Tao. While this was going on, Honglu was nodding along and chatting amicably with Qing Tao. Dante understood that blindly trusting every ally they have. Yes, every ally they have, it ends badly. Let's see. Hopkins left Yuri, Dante and a damned dozen to die, all for simple greed in District 4. Dong Rang in District 11 turned out to be the traitor of the League of Nine, who betrayed them in exchange for a job in Keikor. Ahab in District 21 turned out to be a psychotic that was about to kill them all, regardless of what they chose. Nellie in District 20 was revealed to be just as disdainful towards Heathcliff as almost everyone in Wuthering Heights, and even after Heathcliff was in a position of freeing her from her contracts, keeping her to her job, she practically spat on his kindness by taking the Golden Bower and joining Encore, their main rival. So this mistrust is not without cause. Or rather distrust. Well, you get the idea. They distanced themselves from the guide before asking Faust the question. What was that about Virgilius back near the entrance to the back streets of District 8? Something about him going to help the Before team out. Faust made it clear that it was the consequences of his actions at Wuthering Heights. Ishmael's annoyed expression more or less said, "Oh, that." Faust continued by saying that his actions were a violation of one of the more important items in his contracts. This is taking responsibility for that breach. Likely him stepping in against the Wild Hunt before all of the team was wiped out and Dante was unable to invert time safely. Dante thought back to the incident 2 months before. Dante saw this as unfortunate as he helped them out and not a moment too soon, as they needed to get to Earl King Heathcliff. Heathcliff was angry at them, dragging him away for that. Qing Tao asked if there was a problem. Rodia brushed that off. It was nothing at all, asking Ryushu to confirm that, who proceeded to strike at him, saying, "S-you idiot." Shut up, is likely what that meant. And Rodia asked Massault to carry Heathcliff for a while. He's dead tired. He agreed to do so. Dante saw that Heathcliff was punched in the guts by the hilt of Ryushu's sword, who fell forward right into Massault's welcoming shoulder. Dante wanted Rodia to explain herself. She told him that the kind of person she hates the most is the dull people who can't read the room, asking Dante if they feel the same way. Dante nervously confirmed this, afraid that they'll receive the same. I don't know why you're worried, Dante. No one other than the damned dozen can understand you. Faust saw that their judgment was correct, as this was classified company information that must not be discussed in the presence of an outsider. Likely, it's need to know only, and right now, Qing Tao doesn't. Ishmael was exasperated at this. It's like when he got knocked out cold for a while because he kept asking questions but without raising his hands. This was 2 months ago before they arrived at the point where they could access the nest of District 20. When they first heard of risk level reclassification. Urtis was impressed by Ryushu being able to preserve the secrecy of classified information while avoiding spilling blood. Rodia thought that she did good at forewarning Ryushu. Dante didn't like how they treated Heathcliff like dirt now. I have a suspicion that them using him as a punching bag, both physical and psychological, will come back to bite them in the one day. Qing Tao saw that all was well, yet a problem found them regardless. They were surrounded by a group of people wielding various weapons in their hands. Gregor asked him, "What happened to finding them a safer path?" Qing Tao implied that it was safer, but that didn't mean that all fights would be avoided. This annoyed Arutis, as his job was to prevent this from happening. Ishmael told her to save that for later. They needed to take them down. Massault understood that they must not be allowed to reveal their current location. Roger asked Qing Tao where he was running off to. He made it clear that he sucked at combat, so he's hiding until they're done. Dante asked Faust if she knows anything about what they're up against. She didn't, although consulting with the Faust network wasn't needed to determine that if they were the diplomatic type. Arutis saw that they were coming, and Dante ordered Massault to wake Heathcliff up and set him down. He did so, and it was revealed that those that came for them, be they syndicate thugs or fixers, they were not open to diplomacy, and so they were forced to fight them. They were similar to the Triax office, relying on bleeding, but they could also paralyze. They were also weak to slash, but unlike the Triax office, they were strong against blunt damage. They were easily slaughtered. Massault confirmed that all hostiles in the immediate vicinity had been eliminated. Qing Tao ran up to them once the immediate danger had passed. Arutis was silently processing this while Qing Tao asked Honglu if he was hurt. Honglu confirmed that he wasn't. Qing Tao praised his martial skills even among the rest of the damned dozen. He continued to suck up to Honglu by saying that he couldn't hold back the tears at that wondrous sight, to witness this from him, seeing it as an unexpected surprise. Sinclair asked him if all of the children of the Gia family undergo all kinds of strict training regimens from childhood. Apparently, Qing Tao assumed that Honglu had been slacking off on his training since he left home. Sinclair then asked how he thought that they tracked him down. Qing Tao didn't think that they were exactly tracked down. He believed that those that lurked in the back streets recognized Honglu's face. Honglu didn't think that his face was that well known. Qing Tao reminded him that it was soon time for the family hierarchy evaluations, and everyone in Hongguan would need to know the face of Honglu, who was apparently loved by every elder of the family. Okay, that is surprising, as his family sounds like a bunch of social Darwinists, even by the city standards. Apparently they assumed that he carried something of great value. Dante remembered Jia Sichun speaking of them being heirs during the La Mancha Land mission. Honglu looked like he couldn't care less about that, telling Qing Tao that they seemed wrong. He didn't bring anything precious that the elders might be looking for. This was surprising to Qing Tao. Honglu had no interest, seeing many of his siblings as a much better fit to be family hierarch than him. Qing Tao struggled to find the right words. Then he considered this a relief. Yi Sang wanted to know what he meant by that. Qing Tao made it clear that it's highly dangerous to partake in the hierarch evaluations, so it's a relief that Honglu wasn't putting himself in unnecessary danger. Dante could see why he would say that. Gregor asked if there was going to be any more after taking them all down. Roger asked him not to say that. This made Ryushi laugh. Sinclair asked why she laughed, worried about the reason. Well, that's the only thing worse than that question. an answer. Qing Tao asks him not to be concerned about this. They'll take a less direct route, guaranteeing a safe and easy passage to where they were going. Otis struggled to believe this. The kind of route that they've been taking so far was perfect to set up an ambush, yet he claimed that this was the safer path. Qing Tao asked them to put their faith in him, for Hongyuan wasn't like most places. Otis would follow his lead regarding this, for now. And then she asked Ishmael for the pamphlet on District 8. This surprised Ishmael, as she was actually going to read it. Otis confirmed this, as if she didn't intend to read it, she wouldn't ask for it. Ishmael had good reasons to be caught off guard, as it's been a year of getting brushed off by everyone. Every time she pleaded them to read it. Did no one think to... Otis then basically told her to shut up about her grievances or she'll find a different source of intel. Ishmael then handed it over without further complaints. Otis wordlessly thanked her and then looked through anything in the pamphlet that might be useful to know. There was suspicion on her face, although it wasn't clear exactly what. On the way to their destination, they fought many enemies that sought to kill Honglu and those associated with him. Heathcliff snapped at Qing Tao, asking what happened to the safe and easy passage he spoke of. To explain that, I can understand his reaction to this unreliability. Qing Tao believed that Honglu's face was made known. Ishmael asked him if they were finding a less direct route. Why were they getting jumped by even more enemies? As Qing Tao was about to make the same excuse, this Ishmael off, as he can't even add a little variation to his excuses. Otis couldn't easily say that he was being untruthful, as not all of those that attacked them were of the same group. Saying this while being frustrated at being unable to establish anything concrete from the pamphlets. Honglu entertained this as, for people without a clear allegiance to attack a member of the Jia family, he understood that things had changed since he was away. In the past, he couldn't catch a glimpse of them. They'd be on their hands and knees whenever they walked past. He saw this as a change. What the is wrong with you? Actually, this is mild compared to most of your family that we've heard of so far. You're the white sheep. Well, at this point Heathcliff saw him as looking insane and told it to shove it up his... Then he asked Qing Tao how long until they get to where they're staying. He replied that it's near and to calm themselves. Dante saw that he was oddly calmer than at the start of the journey. Either he was desensitized to the violence quickly, or... Then Rodia asked what a Kazan was, which was where they were staying, according to Qing Tao. And Faust told her that it's a term commonly used to refer to taverns, inns, or equivalent places of lodging in that region. Rodia saw it as like a hotel, assuming that it's fancy with complimentary snacks and drinks like the warp train. Ishmael wasn't sure, although they do serve alcohol and food along with their lodging. They could get a meal there. This was seen in Don Quixote's Sunk Association East identity story. Gregor hopes that they won't be attacked there. According to Qing Tao, there's a residential non-aggression taboo. Any mutual acts of violence inside a residential building is, that's within that particular area and floor of Hongyuan, was a taboo. Strange. I thought it was damaging a residential building. This was why Moses, Ezra, and Vesper Crabrow in The Distortion Detective couldn't break into one of District 12's residential buildings. Also, if that's the case, then St. East Don Quixote was clearly in a Kazan where it's permitted, as long as it's duels between one and another and kept within reasonable boundaries. Yisang saw that they could rest easy based on that. Dante saw an expression on Faust's face that said that she saw that as ridiculous, but chose not to ask about it right now. Gregor was relieved, but he asked if this was all about the family hierarch contest. Why not save the fighting until then? Hong Lu told him that by then it'd be too late. Gregor wanted to know why it's too late. Hong Lu explained that every candidate must have brought incredibly precious treasures with them. It'd be nice if they believed that their own treasure was the most precious of them all, but Ishmael understood that everyone is going to try to take each other's treasures just to be sure, just in case someone brought something better than theirs. Hong Lu confirmed this, adding that they might kill them to have less competition. Gregor struggled to comprehend how his family thinks. Hong Lu told him that other families aren't much different from his, and this surprised Heathcliff. They made the Edgars seem warm and welcoming. Qing Tao apologized for intruding on their conversation. He made it clear that they might invite additional setbacks, indeed additional attacks if they delayed any longer, adding that it'll be nighttime soon. After walking some more, Qing Tao told them that they'd arrived. Sinclair asked if that was the place. Dante saw that after turning many corners and running through alleyways, they'd arrived at the site of several small buildings tightly built next to one another. In the middle was a building lit with red lamps, adorned with a doorplate with complicated-looking letters scribbled over it. Either Dante didn't bother to read it as it's not important to them, or they don't know how to read Mandarin. Rodia considered it shoddier than expected, asking if it's too trashy to house Hong Lu. Qing Tao told her that this wasn't their building, directing them to where they would be staying. Rodia thought that Hong Lu would be used to the good things in life. Then she saw where Qing Tao was pointing. It appeared to be a small warehouse with a black painted exterior that makes Mephistopheles look big. Dante asked if they could all fit in there, and Rodia saw this as an insult, as it's trashy even for them, never mind Hong Lu. Qing Tao told them that it's the nearest Kazan that they could afford to stay in, at least among those that he managed. Its location in the back streets heavily limited the level of decency it can afford, or in simple terms, it's the best that's available in that part of the back streets. He apologized to Hong Lu. Hong Lu told him not to worry about it. They've clearly had worse conditions for living. One example I can think of is that in District 21, specifically the mudflats of it, they consumed trash crab chowder, which was probably the first meal they ever had, well, the first meal Hong Lu has ever had anyway, where the bowl, or whatever they had it served in, tasted better than the food. He considered it fine for an overnight stay. Ishmael asked if he was nuts. Can it fit them all in there? Qing Tao wanted to guide them to the Jie family mansion in the nest, but the timing isn't good. Ryushu understood him to mean the sweeping wave. Dante knew of the night in the back streets, that it started at 3:13 in the morning. They had plenty of time to get there. Ishmael saw this as well. According to the travel guide, the central area, the nest, was only an hour away from there. Qing Tao clearly knew something that she didn't, asking if she's travelled to District 8 before. Ishmael says, no, she hasn't. He asked her how could she have a full understanding of a place merely by flipping through a book, where she hadn't had to deal with it in person. The layout was ever shifting, the paths changing, along with ambushes from foolish yet vicious syndicates, or even officers of the backstreets. They'd be beset by dangers from all sides. She invited death if she assumed to know better than him with this. Ishmael couldn't answer back. Qing Tao saw that she understood that she didn't know better than him on this subject. Dante asks if it's just them, or was this how they felt when Ishmael was like this back in the Great Lake? Ishmael told them to zip it. Urtis asked if the guidebook listed a path. Does it not imply that it's technically possible to reach there in time? She moved towards him, telling him that she has faith that if Dante would lead them in his directionally challenged stead, they'd be able to get to their destination before night fell. Dante was surprised by this. Yi Sang didn't see this as being discussed beforehand. Qing Tao spoke plainly about what he was about to say. His responsibility was to bring them to the central zone and to ensure Honglu's safety. It was technically possible to reach the Jia family mansion before the night in the backstreets. Urtis let them continue. Qing Tao wouldn't allow any unnecessary risk to befall Honglu. His mission was to get him there faster. No, not faster. His mission wasn't to get him there faster, but safely. Yes, that makes much more sense. And this appeared to surprise Urtis. Then Qing Tao added that making strategies and plans can risk them losing sight of their purpose. To move forward blindly towards the mansion would risk more attacks on them on the way there, which would prioritize the destination over their journey. Yeah, I don't know why I got those two confused. Yes, his mission being to get them there safely, not faster. Okay, let's move forward from here. Urtis had a dangerous look on her, telling him that it's impressive, the qualities of someone that she'd trust with her life while devising a stratagem, a fitting attitude for those who genuinely wish the best for those that they serve. Ishmael looked disappointed at her for going along with Qing Tao. Urtis told him that she misunderstood his intentions. Qing Tao let her continue. Urtis made it clear that she was annoyed when she compared some of his choice words with her own. Qing Tao appeared to like this. Urtis then saw that he had honest loyalty in his heart, and this was pleasing to him that there's someone that understands his loyalty, seeing that Honglu chose his allies well. This was a great relief for him. Urtis looked amused, saying that he knows how to joke around. Gregor noticed that they were getting on well now. Urtis then regained control over herself, saying that she agreed with Qing Tao that they might continue to be attacked like they have so far if they keep moving. Dante saw that she was fully on Qing Tao's side now. She was then looking in Dante's direction. Her smile had faded, replaced by a serious expression. She then nodded. They saw that she must be completely turned around by him, seeing it as her way of saying, "I'm out of here, I'm working for this guy." Despite knowing that she's unable to quit, at least not without her being hunted down by Wi-Fi Association fixers and others. She also saw that Kazan is better than sleeping in outdoor tent barracks. They should relieve some fatigue before moving on. Yisang asked if she didn't say to look for better accommodation earlier. Ishmael's too annoyed to argue further, telling them to go inside. Qingtao was thankful for accepting that inadequate lodging. Dante saw that he was oddly relieved to hear their decision, as he made the Baguan gesture. Yisang understood that current architecture mustn't be judged quickly by what's on the outside. The inside might be better. Roger thought that it'd be nice as they walked in. And Heathcliff thought it wasn't so bad once he saw what was inside, as it was clean in there. Yisang saw it as having a rather classical aesthetic. The landscape paintings lining the walls gave off a rather sophisticated mood. Dante saw that it was more spacious inside than it appeared on the outside, asking if they used some kind of space expansion tech in there. Faust said no, it just seemed that way due to the density of the buildings near it. Qingtao then told them that the door was open. If he's needed, he'll be in a small shed next to that building, telling them to talk freely. He smiled awkwardly and quietly excused himself. As the damned dozen talked among themselves, Honglu was quietly watching Qingtao as he left and gave nothing away about what he was thinking about this. It was as if his eyes were in a storm cloud below a field, with wilted flowers and howling destructive gale. Dante asked Honglu if he suspected something. Honglu responded with, "Not yet." This was noteworthy to Dante. Then saw that there was someone else that was familiar, as they heard someone asking Big Brother if something felt off to him too. Jia Sichun revealed herself. Honglu was surprised to meet up with her so soon. Jia Sichun told him that she had a feeling that they'd be seeing each other again very soon. Wei asked if Honglu had been well. Honglu was glad that Wei was doing well, asking if they were staying there too. Now, she would normally not set foot in that kind of place, but she ran into large-scale construction on the way back home. She had to come through the back streets. Dante understood that they weren't the only ones that had problems with construction works. Then Don Quixote greeted her, which put Jia Sichun on alert, remembering that she was a blood fiend and how she was last time she saw her. She asked if Don Quixote had lost all her memories again, and was she with them? Honglu, understanding that she'll trust his word more, answered that her memories are intact and she was with them. Don Quixote took offense to that. Zichun saw her as such an airhead. Don Quixote told young Zichun to accompany her to the lounge so that they might share a moment of catching up. Jia Zichun hesitated for a moment and then said that they should do that. She then walked right up to her. She liked the idea, telling Wei to find a room for her to stay in, while she talked some things out of her. Likely to find the location of Lefe, the River of Oblivion. The idea, if she found that, she'd eventually find the River of Immortality, something that was of great value to her family elders. Suddenly, Don Quixote felt uneasy. Jia Sichun asked if she wanted to do some catching up. She then called for Dante, and Faust reminded Dante the loss of critical personnel may be cause for disciplinary action. Dante didn't see there being anything wrong with making friends. Honglu believed that Sichun really likes Don Quixote. if she's comfortable enough to tease her like that. Ishmael understood that she doesn't like Don Quixote in a lesbian or bisexual way. It's because of her power, and also what she might know. Wei cautioned her that it's hardly the appropriate place for... And this annoyed Jia Sichun. She'd try again later, telling him to get some sleep, and... well, she's heading in too. She disappointedly headed into the lobby, and Dante told the others to head inside. While everyone was busy looking around and commenting on various things in the Kesan, Sinclair was the most anxious of all. Dante asked him what was going on. Sinclair saw something that was standing out. Like, imagine an ideal picture. Yes, an ideal picture, and this attracted Yisang's attention. Roger missed that joke. Sinclair wasn't talking about that. He asked if he's the only one that feels like something is standing out from the whole picture. Roger didn't want to bring it up herself in case it was just her. Sinclair was not amused by her. Heathcliff asked what was so off about that place. Sinclair asked, wasn't it obvious? Then he and Roger asked where the complimentary snacks went. What was with that mystery table that was weird in the center of the room? That's like the tea floor table, where you go down on your knees and serve yourself tea. They were both quiet for a short time before saying that it was weird. What was that table doing there? Yisang saw its saturated colors as quite a pleasant sight. Ishmael asked if it was any better. Then she wanted to know what that hideous table was doing there. Dante saw that they were all fixated on that unsightly piece of indoor furniture. But it calmed somewhat once they got inside, although none could discern the real purpose of it. Massault then drew their attention to how every step on the floor left black residue on their shoes. Faust saw that it wasn't just the floor, it was also the walls as well. Yisang observed that they rippled in an odd fashion, asking how it was constructed. Gregor believed that the maintenance staff had been slacking. Heathcliff didn't think so, as everything was so organized. He's been to enough seedy establishments to tell when a place has not been tidy for a while. Urtis observed that each room had a bed. While not the best, they can rest there. Jia Zichun was not impressed. She saw that they didn't have time to clean up. She didn't know what to say about this ridiculous negligence. Then she found her room. Yeah, Heathcliff has clearly stayed in worse places. If something happens, they'll take care of it. Gregor saw that there was something wrong with Qing Tao. Some slumped to the floor, showing exhaustion. Dante admitted that it was weird, but at least they have a roof over their heads. Faust then told them that now is a good time to announce that day's close of business. Something which Dante had never done outside the bus before. They announced that day's close of business, and Faust told them that starting from now they have a maximum of 12 hours to sleep and rest. Subject to change. Some went into their rooms, others continued to speculate over the table in the center of the room. Urtis had other concerns, and Dante asked if she had something to say. Urtis confirmed this. It was about Qing Tao. Dante called him her new best friend, observing that they were getting on with each other, and Urtis denied this, asking if they didn't see the signal she gave them earlier. Dante wasn't initially sure what she meant, then they realized that it was the nod she gave slightly in their direction. This annoyed Urtis. She told them that she had the advantage of... well, she wanted to have the advantage of information about the local area, something which Queen Tao had. He answered their accusations with explanations using familiarity with the region. Yes, they had the disadvantage here, and she saw it as wise to feign camaraderie and friendship and go along with his plans while trying to get as much out of him as possible. Dante thought that he had won her over, and Otis made it clear that she was in the business for many years. She was hurt that they ever imagined that she would be fooled by an amateur spy who was overly... Then she stopped herself. She was clearly disappointed that Dante didn't get this. Then she got back on topic. While she was uncertain how long he'll be with them, it'll be reasonable to speculate that he approached the Before team with the purpose of eliminating Honglu, or as he was originally known, Jia Baiyu. This was considering that the inexperienced pilot who came across that connection as another evidence supporting that suspicion. Dante couldn't deny this. Faust then added something to this. She was listening in on this, and she reviewed every known taboo and failed to identify one that Queen Tao identified. The one that was spoken of was the residential non-aggression taboo that prohibits acts of violence within residential areas. Dante saw that as another red flag. Faust saw it as too early to come to any conclusions, as Hong Yuan has taboos that change depending on the location. Otis, considering what is known so far, can allow them to come to the conclusion that Queen Tao is likely lying to them, and Faust can't deny that assessment. Otis understood that they're deep into his machinations. The stream of random assailants was likely a part of his plan. The building is likely a trap as well, but they lack enough information on the backstreets of District 8 to be certain. They did, however, have one small advantage. They severely underestimated their capabilities, considering how pathetic those that were sent to try and kill them were. Regardless, she advised them to keep their guard up, rather. Remain alert, and should these suspicions be true, they should be able to navigate their way out of this trap. Dante understood this. They apologized for the misunderstanding. They didn't know who or what to trust. Otis appreciated that. They trusted her fully next time. She then bowed politely and returned to her room, while Dante discussed with Faust about Queen Tao about his plans. It didn't lead to much. A slow build-up, isn't it? But it should get to the good part eventually. Until next time. Hail the rabbit!